And if anything, I have been reminded how important it is to model for my kids, but also give myself the gift of asking for help. So to be thoughtful, who should I be asking for help from? Who do I enjoy giving help to? If I can tell someone else won't ask, maybe I can offer it.
Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, where each week we talk about ideas for raising kids who become thriving adults. I'm your host, Audrey Monkey. Here on the podcast, I share my experiences raising 5 kids who currently range in age from 16 to 26 and working with thousands more as a summer camp director over the past 3 decades. I'm the author of Happy Campers, and I frequently do workshops with parents, teachers, and summer camp professionals about social skills, connection, and happiness, topics I researched extensively for my master's in psychology. If you want tools for raising kind, optimistic, self-reliant kids who become thriving adults, you've come to the right place. Hey, Sunshine Parenting listeners, and welcome to episode 152, which is first being released on Friday, August 14th, 2020. This week's one simple thing tip is to prioritize getting outside in nature. There are many research-based known benefits of being in nature, and all of them are extremely helpful, especially during challenging times like the one we're in right now. And one of the benefits of being outside is that you are less likely to be around a lot of people, and the virus is less likely to transmit. Some other benefits of being outside in nature include that it provides stress relief, gets you vitamin D, promotes better sleep, encourages more exercise, boosts your brain health, fosters creativity and imagination, and decreases anxiety and depression. If you're already spending some time out in nature this summer, that's amazing. Keep it up. If you haven't gotten outside much yet, I really encourage you for just a simple thing for this week to find a park or a place where you can go for a hike, just to be out in nature and reap the many benefits of being outside. This week on the podcast, I'm bringing you my conversation with Sara Kuljis, who is a camp professional and Gallup Strengths Coach, as well as a dear friend of mine who has been on the podcast many times talking about different topics related to raising kids who become thriving adults. This week, we're talking about putting on our own COVID masks first. I hope you enjoy our conversation and get some great ideas for your own well-being during this challenging time. Well, friends, I am so excited. It's been quite a long time, Sara, since we've had a chat.
It has. I've missed you.
I know. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the podcast. So we are recording in very early August 2020. And so how are you doing, Sara, and what's happening?
Well, like you, I am having the most different summer I've had in a couple decades because summer camp for us wasn't able to happen as it was for you. So our family has had to, or has actually been given the gift of re-envisioning summer. So what is this time for us? How can it be good for us? What do we need to plan for? It's been unusual, but it actually is ending up being a gift.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling pretty peaceful about everything at this point because I realized that can't control it or change it anyway, so might as well just go with the flow here. So we thought that we're going to have a couple conversations, right? And the first one, we want to focus on sort of parents and adults, the caregivers, whatever. What can we do as we transition from summer into another school year for many of us, which is going to be with kids online again, like it was in the spring, again, without the activities that we're so used to being part of our family's lives, whether it's, the sports or extracurricular or religious group meetings, everything, kind of being online again. And so I just thought this would be a really good time for everyone to just kind of take their temperature and first think about kind of personally what's going on and how we're doing. And then we'll do another episode because we have a lot of thoughts about with our kids and schooling and how to have a good mindset going into perhaps more online schooling for the fall. So why don't you talk about just some of your thoughts on just what people can be thinking about at this point in terms of themselves?
Well, I'm happy to. I feel like in the spring, when things closed down with quarantine and the stay-at-home orders, it happened in my memory so suddenly that we just were scrambling to figure out how do my children suddenly do school from home while my spouse and I are working, and how do we protect my older mom and keep her safe. And we didn't have time to plan or think. It was just so instantaneous. And so it felt like more reactive or survival mode. Now that we get to do it again, it is like the farther into the movie Groundhog's Day, where we do have a chance to be a little more thoughtful, plan a little more wisely, and I think we could take a little better care of ourselves, because this is a very stressful kind of situation, a stressful environment. And for some households, it goes easier than others. But fact of the matter is, we are juggling a lot within the confines of our home and within the time of any day. So I think that going into this with a little more wisdom and knowledge, and with a little more time thinking about what am I going to need to be the kind of parent I really want to be, going into another, probably at least a semester of school at home, juggling things at home, what kind of leader, what kind of spouse, what kind of friend, and not to put a lot of weight on ourselves. But I think if we might put our oxygen mask or COVID mask on first, maybe we can come out the other end feeling a little more comfortable, a little more peaceful, give ourselves a little extra break, and figure out how we can not just survive, but maybe thrive a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we were talking earlier. So you and I both been, I was a presenter in the Parenting in Place masterclass at the very beginning, and now I've just been really enjoying these classes. And a thing that has come up in almost every one of them is how much what we do and how we model for our kids how to get through challenging times like this is even more important than kind of specific things that we do with our kids. So, it's that relational piece and all that. But I think that focusing now at this transition to a new season is a really good opportunity for us to kind of regroup and think through what we need, and how we can get the support or help that we're going to need to be able to make it through this next season. Because we're past, if there was any, for some people, there was kind of a honeymoon phase with the COVID, which sounds terrible because it's a terrible virus, but they were so busy, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is the first time we've slowed down. And they were able to maybe take a break from work or work from home, and they had savings or whatever. So for some people, it was like that in the beginning. But for most people by this point, it's any charm that there was has worn off, because there's so much financial stress about the kids, stress about everything, what's going to come. Nobody can plan ahead. So I think that anything that was feeling kind of like, oh, so many silver linings, now it's like, oh no, like school really being online again and no sports again, it just is bad. So I wanted to share something that I think has been really helpful at camp. So in my camp, we have there's groups of 8 to 10 kids with 2 or 3 counselors, and the counselors are kind of like parents, right? They're like they're co-leading these groups. And over the years, we have found that these relationships are not that dissimilar to relationships between people co-parenting kids, as parents. And there have been a lot of times that we have seen that the communication or lack of communication, or people feeling like it's been unfair that like one person's doing more work and the other person's not, it's really common. is that, that there'll be a counselor who is like, I'm doing everything. And the other person, they're just the fun person. They come in and sing songs and they don't help with the teeth brushing. Isn't that like, how like
just like home.
It's just like at home with like parents like feeling like, oh, you're I'm doing everything. I do all the cooking and, whatever. I always help the kids with the homework. And so I was thinking that there's a lot of similarities to this time now. I think that maybe, pre-COVID, you probably had some kind of routine at home, different things that people lean towards helping with more or less. From what I understand, and I know this is not universally true, but from what I've understood from what the researchers are saying is that moms are inordinately taking more of the burden, the extra burden that the pandemic has placed on homes, that they're taking more of it on. So like in terms of being concerned about kids schooling, communicating with school, figuring out what kind of school they're going to do this year, all of that seems to fall in many families to the mom. And, many of those moms also work and everything too. So at camp, we have learned that, well, first of all, one of the things that I was telling you this morning is that what counselors really want to do is they want to get divorces. They want to like change cabin. They want to like, one session's ending. So they put in a request. I want a new co-counselor, right? Because this one wasn't good enough. They weren't helping, whatever. And so we have tried to preload now this summer with some planned conversations between the counselors to talk about some really important, very logistical type things. And so my thought was, I wonder if the end of the summer and the beginning of this new season of school is a good time to have basically that conversation with whoever you are parenting with. So, if you have another parent who lives in your home that you're co-parenting with, your partner, that's the person to have the conversation with. If you are a single parent and you've partnered up with another single parent, or you're a grandparent or whatever, having that conversation with them, whoever you're sharing duties of your childcare with. And there were some different things that you can talk about. At camp, we keep it really simple. Basically, we talk about personal time, we call it, which is what like you and I would call like me time or like our whatever.
Our break in the day or the week. Yes.
Like the things that we need to do. So we'll have the counselors, we'll encourage them to have the conversation. Like, are you more of a morning person? Like, do you like to, do you like to get up and go for a run in the morning? Do you want to take your shower at night or in the morning? Those kind of things. Or would rest hour in the middle of the day be a good time for you? If we have some staff who are from other countries and like time zone wise, like the morning is a good time for them to call home. So they need time, like personal time before breakfast even. So what we encourage them to do is to look at the whole week and plan out and actually plot out. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, like at home, but think about how nice that would be if you knew that you've got Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings, until whatever, 8 a.m. is your time, and that your partner is going to get the kids up or get school started or breakfast or whatever. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is theirs or whatever it is. So we encourage the counselors to actually, we give them this schedule, and it shows early morning, rest hour, and then the evening, which is like outside of the scheduled activities. So you could really think of the same thing for home, but do it more like school day, maybe broken up into whatever times the school days are, early morning, afternoon, evening, whatever. And then you really could just divvy it up. And if it's somebody, like if somebody loves bedtime and reading stories and they want to do it most nights and it's fine with the other person and they prefer whatever, morning or the school or whatever, really figure that out. So that's kind of like that's part of it, the personal time schedule. What are some other things though, Sarah, that would be like for, obviously this is different from summer camp. So what are some other things that we might want to consider besides just who's going to do what, which responsibilities when, and when's our free time?
Yes. Well, I think for many of us, it's, holy cow, when am I going to get my work done? I'm still working from home, or maybe I need to go into the office now because my office is meeting, but our kids are home and they're doing school and they need reminders or help with homework or whatever. So figuring out work time, and for especially if your kids are younger, to figure out with that parenting partner, hey, I'm going to work hard to schedule all of my Zoom meetings in the morning. That's my time. And so I'm going to be kind of in this bedroom or in this office. We have a mutual friend who has turned the bathroom into his office.
Shout out to Paul.
Go, Paul. Sitting in the bathtub with the door locked. That's a very private space with great internet. And that's the space. And the time to get the work done. And then for the other person, I'm going to schedule on my meetings in the afternoon. And so if there won't be as many interruptions. And I think, and it might not be in one day. Maybe it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm going to try to cram all those kinds of things in there. And then later in the week is going to be my time to attend more to the kids. But if we can anticipate it, I really think everybody is being so understanding when we have said, I can't meet that morning, but I can meet this time. And just the cooperativeness within work groups right now has been wonderful. So scheduling work time, how can we all get it done and still be present enough to the kids?
And for people who work outside, who are able to now go outside the home, perhaps it's even really sitting down even with that and saying, if they have, the types of jobs that have like longer shifts, 2 or 3 times a week versus other kinds of things, really talking through what will your employer let you do? What can I do? How can we make this work where maybe, we both have some time at home or whatever, but you aren't stressed. I think it's actually a good discipline, Sarah. I found that before I had kids, I could stretch workout to last really, really long. I don't know if you found this too.
Absolutely.
I could always find like things I could tweak or make better or work on. And so I would often work, really late into the night, and it was no big deal because when you don't have kids, it's not, you can kind of like let your work expand. But I learned after I had kids that I really needed to be very focused, because I did have very small chunks of time. I don't know if you had that, but like when my kids were little, I would have childcare for part of the day. So I might have like some mornings that were my work mornings. And this was like some of this was pre-email, and it was mostly phone calls and messages. So I had to go into the office to like do, get faxes or whatever. These are
the good old days.
Yeah. And we were talking about getting mail, going to get the mail and opening the mail and all that. So I think that this could be a good time to really think about some time management stuff and really think about how many hours do you need to be effective? What do you need to ask your employer for? What do you need to ask your partner for? If you have a prime time for your work during the day, figuring that out, it'd be great if yours are different. If they're the same, maybe you need to negotiate alternating. If you both love mornings for getting work done, maybe you just know that there's certain mornings that you're with the kids and then the other mornings you get to work, but making it really clear rather than this kind of mushy, everybody's on duty always, and then everybody's frustrated and nobody's paying enough attention to the kids. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Well, and, we so often think that our parenting partner can read our minds, or maybe I'm the only one who thinks that. But
no, the counselors think that too. We all think that. We're like, can they not see that I've been doing so much and I'm so frustrated right now? Why don't they just read my mind and step in and help?
Right. But if we just always know that person is probably not going to read our mind. So, as Brene Brown would say, clear is kind. So being clear, this is what I need and this is when. What about you? Let's plan this out.
Yeah.
I also think that some of these conundrums with work and helping the kids with school or simply just childcare is a great time to lean into those neighbors that you might have gotten to know better during this unusual season, especially if they're COVID hygiene, we'll call it, is similar to yours. To say, hey, on Tuesdays, that's a heavy duty day for both my spouse and I at work. Is there any way that I could take your kids on Thursdays and you could cover my kids on Tuesdays, and really kind of build these little co-ops and be neighbors or little cohorts in new ways. Again, people are looking for, a village to do that with. And, setting up spaces in each other's homes. I have a friend who the garage is the space where they're going to share childcare.
Okay.
And they can put a bunch of toys and rambunctious kinds of things. They don't have to worry about things getting broken. And they pull the cars out, and that is the space for, I think it's about 2.5 hours, a couple days a week. And that is gonna be really, really
Right.
helpful in the long run.
Yeah. I think if I had little kids right now who needed the kind of constant supervision, I would definitely be looking for another family with similar age kids to partner with to, like you said, just make it really clear, like, let's split up the days. And I think even for the kids, like when you're thinking about young kids, they will get more out of, for example, even if they're like on online first grade, if there are two of them together. And they're going to need probably a lot of help just logging on and everything. So to get those two kids together with one adult supervising them at least. And so I like the co-op idea. I know some people are talking about, very expensive, what are they calling them?
Micro schools.
Where they're paying a teacher to
Yes.
meet with 5 kids and that kind of thing. And that's out of reach for most families. And so, but this co-op idea could be good where they, you just share with one other family or a neighbor or somebody. And ideally if the kids were similar age so that maybe they were, gosh, how nice would that be if they were in the same grade or school, so that at least the parents both kind of know what's going on. But so for sure I think this is a lot of planning, and for people, I know you're not used to having to do this, but I think that it will save a lot of strife later to have these conversations early, like before school starts. So
before it's on fire.
Right.
Yes.
And this is what with our counselors too. So we have these really open conversations and we set up the stage too for them to then also have debriefs to check in. So how has this gone so far? What are you getting the time you need to, touch base with your family, to get your showers, whatever you need? Here's how I'm feeling. Really making it much more of like an open conversation from the beginning is much better than getting to that point where you're so upset and you're feeling used or like you're doing
resentful
too much.
yes.
Then it's really hard to have those conversations. So I like the idea of just for us to just start this season with a really candid conversation, thinking about what we need. And I think we need to think about, we've talked about kind of needing, maybe we need some of us need some exercise or time with friends or whatever, work time. We've talked about kids care, schooling. There's also for many of us, there's household responsibilities.
Oh, absolutely. Grocery
things that need to be
shopping, cooking.
fixed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Waiting for the repair people.
Yeah.
It's like a constant thing. So there's that, household stuff. And then there's also many of us have other things like, elderly parents.
A doctor's appointment.
Kids' doctor's appointments.
Keeping up with, maybe it's a group, a book club or a group, support group or a recovery group that you've been involved with. There's, the world we need to figure out how to not stop our whole life.
Right.
To quarantine or to move forward. So how do we continue to incorporate those important things wisely? We were joking before we started recording on just how hard it is for some of us to ask for help. And especially those of us who are used to running fast and hard. We draw a lot of enjoyment, and some of us draw some accolades from running fast and hard. And if anything, I have been reminded how important it is to model for my kids, but also give myself the gift of asking for help. So to be thoughtful, who should I be asking for help from? Who do I enjoy giving help to? If I can tell someone else won't ask, maybe I can offer it.
Right.
Man, if we can model for our kids or even our spouses or friends that, I just realized I wasn't healthy, or I was really being stressed out, or I wasn't myself anymore. And so I finally asked for help in this way. That's a pretty big gift of the COVID season.
Oh, for sure. And I think too is that we all like to be the helper, or most of us, many of us like to feel like we can go bring a meal to someone or help someone or whatever. But it feels so good to be able to do that helping. So to remember that when we ask people who care about us and say, hey, I could really use your help right now. I just need like a listening ear, because I just need to vent about, how hard this is or whatever. When you have that, you've given them a gift, actually, to be able to feel like they can help you. And there's another exercise I was just thinking about that we do at camp where it's called HELP! Exclamation point. And it's first you reflect, how do you feel about people who ask for help?
Oh, that's great.
And, when you think of say your employees, if they come to you and say, Sarah, you know what, I'm struggling with this camper, with this issue. Can you give me some help? How do you think about that, counselor?
Oh, I think they're brilliant because they probably tried 8 things and they knew when to say, okay, I need to call in reinforcements. So I actually think well of them.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's what we all do, actually.
Yeah.
People who are brave enough to say, you know what, I don't think I'm feeling well. I think I need to go to a doctor. Now, as opposed to the people who, I'll be fine. I've
had these symptoms for 7 months.
Yes, right?
So we think highly of
Yeah.
people who, not people who are taking advantage.
Right.
That's a different thing. But people who can ask for help when they need it, we think highly of them. So I think it's a good thing to remember for those of us who are feeling overly burdened with too many responsibilities right now, which is many people. For many people, it is too much. Their job, their kids, their parents, their other responsibilities, it's actually too much. So one idea is to, before you have this conversation with your partner, to just sit down and make a list. What are all the things that you're feeling that are on your list? And it could even be, I'm thinking even they talk about that emotional burden that oftentimes mothers carry, feeling you're the one that needs to worry about that next dentist appointment. You're holding all these things. So, what if even some of those things, you kind of get out on the list, all the things that are on you feel like they're on your list of responsibilities, and somehow kind of divvy them up. So at camp, it could be that, you divvy up that, okay, I want you to be the one worrying about sunscreen every morning. You're going to be the sunscreen person. So I'm going to take that off my plate. I'm not going to be worried about skin cancer today. I'm going to let you be the sunscreen. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Kind of or you're going to be, every Tuesday you're making tacos. I'm not worrying about dinner on Tuesday. It's
Perfect.
take it off your, I don't have to think about the marketing or dinner on Tuesday night. So I just think that those getting pretty specific about what's on your plate right now, whether it's your mental, emotional plate or your actual duties, getting it all out there so that you're ready for your meeting,
Oh, that's good. And giving that partner a warning. Hey,
Yeah.
this is what the meeting's about. Why don't you do this
Yes,
as well?
yes.
Nothing worse than springing it
Yeah.
on them and they're not in a place to be able to, to focus on it. I would add one more thing, which I have been so reminded of during this season, but also it's an exercise we do with our staff, especially the leadership staff at camp, and that is assessing how stress shows up for us, how each of us carry stress.
Yes.
So, well, I have found that during this COVID season, when I was under my biggest stressful weeks, I really hunkered down. I didn't exercise as much. I was over attached to the news. I was over planning and forecasting. I wanted to take naps and eat lots of comfort food, and I really turned in, and I wanted to verbally process so much. My partner, who I co-parent with, who also is my husband, who also is my business partner, he started exercising a lot more and doing lots of independent thinking and lots of very future planning and being more and more quiet. And that's how each of us do stress. And anticipating that as we're looking at me time and scheduling the week is to really honor and not be frustrated with the way each other does stress. Even giving your kids a heads up, because I could tell when I carry stress more vividly, my kids are carrying more stress. They just, I hand it down to them and they are feeling that and it's agitating. And so just being really candid and humble and again, honoring your kids and your partner's way of holding stress too. It's our body and our mind's way. It's our heart's way of saying, how am I going to survive this well? And so as we're all being human together, how do we support how each other is carrying stress and be a little healthier and encourage each other but let's not pretend it's not going to show up, because it is.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so true. We all should be doing this kind of regularly anyway with our partner, but just like asking that question, like that same thing. Okay, so here's all my responsibilities. Here's what I'm worrying about. Here's all these like things that I feel like I'm carrying for our family. And here's where I'm seeing myself be maybe a little dysfunctional or like bad things that are coming out.
I miss this part of me, this happier part of me, or this more flexible part of me. I'm feeling really rigid. And,
So when you see that, here's what could be helpful for me.
Yes.
Like say, hey, do you feel like going for a run? Do you need to call? Do you want to go call Sarah? Whatever. Like, I think that being gracious to each other about that is, like you said, such a good model for our kids, because I think people are pretty regularly not being at their finest selves during this season, and it's kind of a normal thing. Like there's so many things going on. There's a lot of grief. There's a lot of anxiety about
lots of loss.
Lots of loss and grief. And it's interesting when you were talking about different ways of carrying stress. I was thinking, the same thing happens when you're grieving something. That people have different ways, and often that breaks apart like married couples because they have different ways of grieving the same, whatever it might be. And so it's a really important piece to know about in your family, like how you're carrying it, what your like symptoms are, I guess, of stress or grief or whatever, and be a little more prepared now that we're going into the marathon of this whole thing. So I like that. So that's like, okay, so this is really good. So, and this is actually too, it's funny because same thing with counselors, they don't, they're just getting to know each other usually, but same thing. It's really important for them to be able to be really honest about how comfortable they are asking for help. And even being able to say like, so usually I'm not very direct when I need help, but if you see me getting quiet or doing this, this, and this, those are usually my signs of I'm under stress.
So come, please ask me. I give you permission, even to ask me how I'm doing. And when I say I'm fine, will you ask one more time? Just, I'm going to need that from you.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even better, sometimes it's just like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take the kids up to the dining porch for breakfast.
Yeah, take an extra 15 minutes right now.
We'll meet you up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's almost better because you know how sometimes it's like, I always think about, when a kid says, like they're really, when they're hangry.
Oh, yes.
And you say, I think you need something there. No, I don't. I'm not hungry. Or the worst is, take a deep breath. When you're upset and someone tells you these things, your reaction is like, stop telling me what to do. Right?
Yes.
But if someone just plops a snack in front of you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like your child who's like, whatever, kind of irritable. Or you pick up the basketball and start playing with it. It's amazing how sometimes
really good point.
If you can get them what they need without being really, like I just know for me personally, I remember even as a child, tantruming, I am not tired, like yelling it out. And of course I was.
Yes.
But I don't want you to tell me I'm tired.
Yes.
I want you to take the kids and like say, hey kids, taking you like on a walk around the block. And leave me there.
Yes.
So anyway, okay. Well, so this is good. So I think that we have kind of set the stage. We are talking about this week, just this whole kind of setting ourselves up for kind of a healthier fall in terms of our relationship with our co-partner, parenting partner, spouse, and taking better care of ourselves, figuring out what we need help with, what maybe we can get off our plate. If there's too many things on there, if when school gets added back in and it's going to be too much, and that's what a lot of people are feeling, then there's got to be something that changes, either more help
can
or
give. Yes.
So I think this has been really good. So Sarah, in our next chat, we're going to talk about just what everyone's been talking about, which is kids and school and how to navigate it and how to really figure out like what's going to be best for your child this year. And for your family and your relationships, because some of the online schooling things were really hard for families because either it was hard technologically or the kids were resistant or it was just a added stress for parents. So in our next conversation, we're going to talk about that and share some of our thoughts and ideas about how to frame this or go in with a mindset that's maybe a little different from what we usually do at the beginning of a school year.
Yes, we definitely have to look at it differently, and we get to take advantage of what we learned in the spring semester.
Definitely.
We're going in wiser.
Yes.
And I'm actually excited to have a do-over.
I know. for sure. We all need it. Do over 2020. All right. So listeners, we will be back next week with our thoughts on kind of framing our school situation for our kids. It's for many of us and in many states, including our own, which is California, it is not an ideal start to the school year. It looks like almost everywhere is going to be, once again, distance learning, what they call it, which is for most of us not our favorite form of learning, and nor is it for most of our kids their optimal
best way of learning.
Yeah, for sure. So, we'll be back next week. Sarah, thanks for being on again. It's been
love being here, and
awesome as usual.
And we're certainly hopeful that any encouragement we can give might fuel those listening. Y'all have been working hard, and you have been mighty and heroic, and we just want to affirm that and bless you, because we know you are doing your darndest, and your kids know you are as well. So know that when they look back, they're going to think, wow, Mom and Dad were pretty amazing.
Oh, so true. I'm feeling encouraged. Thanks, Sarah. My favorite this week is the Gottman Institute, specifically their Instagram feed that features some really great exercises and ideas for improving relationships. I'm including a link in this week's show notes to a post from this week that I really enjoyed from the Gottman Institute, and it's called Getting Parents on the Same Page. As always, you can find notes, links, and other resources related to today's conversation by visiting my website at sunshine-parenting.com. While you're there, be sure to sign up for my email list so that you don't miss out on any of the great resources I have available for raising thriving kids. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate you sharing it with a friend. Please take a moment to give Sunshine Parenting a rating or review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Let's end with a quote from my book, Happy Campers. Creating a close and connected family culture that promotes positive, lifelong relationships is the most important thing we can do for our children. Warm and supportive parent-child relationships, a sense of being loved, and help and support from family members serve as protective factors and increase children's resilience and their ability to face many of life's inevitable challenges. I'm Audrey Monkey. Thank you for joining me for the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. Join me again next week for more conversations about raising kids who become thriving adults.